Oh, hey, sorry guys. My audio interface reset for some reason. So I just been talking to myself. So now that I'm warmed up, I appreciate everybody sticking with me for that. So thanks guys. I'm glad I checked the comments late, but appreciate you letting me know. I'll start again. Okay. All I feel is pain, right? I'm sure it's all we feel right now. And this is the maddest I think I've been at a game in a long time because it seems to be even when we're up 14, right? It feels like something's gonna go wrong, and it always does. It's the most I understand that, I've even been preaching patience on here every single week, but I think the situation can still be positive, right? Overall, with what rules done this season can be positive in the grand scheme of things, but looking at it in a week by week basis, this is completely like it you think it's going to end eventually. Well, we don't think it is. We probably understand this is going to happen each week, but we feel at some point it has to end, and it's not. And interesting stat that I saw in College Football Home, or that Mark had sent me from College Football Home, and it's the records from the coaches and one score losses. And so far, Mike Riley was 7-10, Scott Frost was 5-22, Matt Rule so far is 1-4. 1-4. And think about it this way, Michigan State, for all intents and purposes, we should have won that game, and had opportunities taken away at the very end, and multiple games this year is with officiating and stuff like that. So this team is so close to having the Big Ten West title in the bag right now, and that's what's frustrating. So I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. We can still be extremely frustrated with what's gone on lately because this team is capable of better record than they have right now. Um, but we can still look at the season as a positive with Rule. So let me check the comments to make sure. Okay, yeah, and it's just like you feel like it feels the same. Every Wisconsin loss, I feel like, comes down to Nebraska needing a touchdown on a 4th and long, and we sail it and give our receiver no chance to get it. And we're relying on that 1 year pass interference, maybe, but still, we're never in a position to make a play on the ball. Today, I'll get into the overtime play calling in just a second, the issues I have with that. But let's start with the tackling. Um, the amount of times we have Mordecai behind the line, yeah, it was insane. I lost count, but I don't think that um, I don't think that Wisconsin maybe has 3 points in this game if we could tackle Mordecai behind the line. It's just everything was broken, every play was broken, over pursuit and all that. So who's to blame? Right now, I think play calling is a huge, huge issue. Satterfield right now they need to be asking the tough questions to Rule, and hopefully he's given answers because somebody needs to give answers as to why this play calling is. It seems like, there in the beginning, right? We had the formula, moving the ball forward with the run, setting up Chuba in situations where it's not a must pass situation, right? And then for some reason, we completely go away from that and we're throwing. We're getting pre snap penalties, which is putting us even further behind the line, putting Chuba in these obvious passing situations, and our receivers were having trouble getting separation. So he ends up running a lot, and it just really didn't set him up for success. It's frustrating that the game that we finally have decent quarterback play and don't turn the ball over. Well, turned it over at the very end, but don't turn the ball over, that everything else seems to go wrong. The defense couldn't tackle, couldn't get a stop. And there were moments, in overtime, for instance, where he had all day to throw. I mean, there were some plays where we're getting in there and we're wreaking havoc. He still gets away. And then when we weren't doing that, he had all day in the pocket to throw. I don't understand what the reason was why we couldn't get much of a pass rush. I know they have a good line, but that offense isn't good. Braylon Allen, I mean, I feel like they hype him up a lot more than he should be. He had a solid game. He's just a big dude moving the pile, but yeah, super frustrating. So let's go special teams now. The next thing on the list of failures from today's game, Brian Buschini. I have no idea. This game was the perfect game to have really good punting. I mean, the weather was good. I don't think there was much wind at all. The conditions were perfect, and he had an 18-yard punt in there. Um, Never could we back them up, and I think we punted to the 20 that one time, but Nebraska constantly getting pinned inside the 10, inside the 5, and not being able to do that on the opposite side is impacting this team in levels that I don't know if people understand, because this offense isn't built to drive 95, 90 yards. This offense is built to take advantage of moments and flashes, right? It's not they're designed to put consistent drives together. Clearly, we have not been able to consistently put drives together all season. It's been big play, flash play here and there. We'll occasionally get a drive going, but those drives are when we run the ball. And still going away from that, I don't understand. Emmett Johnson was great, right? He had moments the entire game. Why is he not getting more touches? How many did he finish with? Because he's running the ball harder than anybody. Anthony Grant, of course, got banged up in that game. But let me go look at Emmett Johnson's stats, and then Chubba Purdy. I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he did in this game, because again, just on the road, his first start, bowl eligibility on the line, I think he did a really good job of not making mistakes. I feel like he tucked the ball and run when he needed to. He threw the ball away when he needed to. So big shout out to him for just making the right plays, right? Like even the throwaways were huge in this game, because other, times our quarterbacks are not throwing that ball away. They're trying to force it, and that leads to a interception. So even deserves some credit on those throwaways there. So let's dive into the box score just a little bit here before we move on with it. All right. So box score, Chubba Purdy had 14 carries. Emmett Johnson had a 13 carry game again. I don't understand 13 carries for Emmett Johnson. He seems to be around that range, but I feel like with the formula that they had in the first half, that was working. And when they went away from that, Emmett Johnson started to not get as good of carries, and wasn't getting as many out of the carries, because I mean we were just easy to stop at that point because our play call was so sporadic. We couldn't get anything going. Jalen Lloyd, of course, had another big touchdown. Billy Kemp, big time, 8 receptions, 43 yards. We cannot seem to get Billy Kemp in space. Malachi Coleman had a couple targets where if Chubba brings that ball down, I don't know how you overthrow Malachi Coleman, first off. But if you bring that ball down, this game is completely different. We would have converted there in overtime. There was another throw where he overthrows him. Fedoni, three receptions for 23 yards, had that diving catch. Fedoni's really coming along after that game where he had about 4 drops, I think, 3 or 4 drops. And he's really been good since then. But 169 yards passing, 195 yards on the ground, and it still didn't feel like we ran the ball enough. Marcus Buford, big time game. 9 solo tackles. Gifford, always consistent with 6. Javen Wright, been a monster lately. 4 solos. Henrik, hopefully Henrik is okay. Reimer, 3. The motor on Reimer and Heinrich is absolutely unbelievable. Those guys don't quit. Phelan Sanford, man, physical as it gets. Phelan Sanford plugging up that middle, and that big hit in that moment, man. I really wish we could have came back and won that game because that was big time. Sacrifice his body on the line in there, put it in there. So, unfortunate. Back clock management late in the fourth quarter. Clock management at halftime too. That was the clock management is terrible right now so far this season with Matt Rule. I don't think I've seen it play out well. He's letting way too much time tick off the clock. He's I don't know why he wants to keep those timeouts in his back pocket. It's like we have 2 timeouts with like 10 seconds left. we don't need timeouts with 10 seconds. Like, we need one. We don't need two. Those should be going when we're at a minute, 60 seconds left, 50, start using those timeouts. I understand the clock stops to move the chains, but you have to get up on the ball. Valuable time goes away there. There was a couple instances, on that second long first down that we got on their side of the territory. We should have called a timeout. And there in the fourth quarter, I think it was the fourth quarter, where we let all the time run off and call a timeout with 20 seconds left after we're lined up. It's things like that. These are the things that lose games, because maybe more times on the clock, if we manage the clock right. Maybe we come out of halftime with a better, maybe we get that closer than 49 yards for Alvano to have to come in and hit. Yeah, that Alvano kick, that was a bad miss, but credit to him for stepping up in that second one, sending it to overtime. That's a big time kick. So Alvano, he has ice in his veins. Remember, he was 5 for 5 in the Nebraska State Championship game and drilled the 55-yard game winner. So clock management, absolutely horrendous. You are on point there. Pre-snap penalties, another one. So OC's got to go. Went away from the run after taking a 14-point lead. So many of our runs were pretty scrambling for his life. Ran a completely different offense tonight. Yeah. And that's been the song and dance all year with this offense. It's like, at one point in the season, I remember when Harburg originally took over, Nebraska had success with the short and intermediate pass game, right, to set up the run, and then did a couple of games of that, and then the next few games, all of a sudden, we have completely gone away from that, and we're passing 10, 15 yards down the field and throwing deep balls with Harburg when he's not very good at the deep ball. He's not very good at 10, 15, 20-yard throws. It needs to be quick out of his hands, or he needs to be running. Now we have Chubba, and I understand that he can pass, but don't get away from running the ball. That's what we've been doing well all year. Just because Chubba comes in also doesn't mean our wide receivers are all of a sudden back and not injured. So I don't get it. Late in the game, why are we getting cute behind the line of scrimmage? Why are we running a little, quick pass out and then immediately coming with like a reverse style play? So now it's 3rd and long again. So we're playing around behind the sticks too much with these plays that haven't worked all year. These end arounds and stuff like that, those haven't worked. What they need to be doing is running the ball vertical. Stop trying to stretch it out wide, vertical. Get the ball forward. I don't care if it's a 2-yard gain. If you have 2-yard gains, 3rd and 6 is a lot better than 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15. Or in this game, we had 1st and 20s, 1st and 19s. Credit to Chubba for picking those up. I can punt 18 yards, and I believe you. I believe you. I bet you got a lot of power in those legs, dude. That's that old man strength right there. So maybe they get you some NIL money, get you out there. I don't know how much they'd have to pay you, but I'll throw in. I'll throw in a little bit. I would love to see that. Prime example, what Satterfield doesn't know what he's doing, runs a trick play, based toss play, second play of the game. Haven't run that play in 3 weeks. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, you have an offense that leads in the NCAA in turnovers, and you want to run cutesy trick plays, and where we're pitching the ball, running, handing it off, and it's a recipe for disaster. I think we're playing so scared of wanting to not turn the ball over that those guys are thinking way too much, and we're stretching those. Fedoni, to his credit for his receiving, needs to block better. There was no blocking on the outside. If there's no blocking on the outside, and there hasn't been for the majority of the season, why are we still going out there? It's not confusing anybody. It's not tricking anybody. I don't want to hear because we're mixing up the play calling. It's not working. So don't do it. And it reminds me of old school Frost, where he's, we're doing bubble screens and throwing behind the sticks and setting ourselves up for failure. And I thought the recipe was there, and we all did. The recipe was there on the first 2 drives. That's what I'm saying. They better be asking tough questions about Satterfield and where his head's at, because this is getting bad. And I am not a fan of saying fire people year one. I want to give the benefit of the doubt, but this play calling better be because there's been so much churn and rotation that he's just trying to figure something out. I don't know. You better have a good excuse, because I know Rule's going to probably keep him. Rule's not going to give up on him, and Rule might defend him. Rule probably. I can't talk, man. That's how mad I am. Rule will probably defend him. I don't know why it was so tough to say, but and that's unfortunate, because I think as a fan base we deserve to know what's going on, and maybe we'll get a little nugget of something after the game, but Rule still, same outlook on Rule. I know the stress is probably getting to him, and the anxiety is probably getting to him too. So it's going to be maybe a little testy here upcoming with what these reporters have to do, but hopefully they ask the tough questions and we can get some answers, because Iowa week next week, man, this offense has to be able to put consistent drives together, or Iowa's just going to run us into the ground. If our defense stays on the field, that's what people don't understand. Iowa's offense, right, for much maligned, but they are going to run right through our defense if our offense can't keep our defense off the field. And they're going to wear the defense down, and they are just going to assert their dominance, and it's going to get ugly. So the offense has to come up with some kind of game plan to get drives sustained and keep them going, because this has been a pain point for this offense the entire season. I don't know what and what's funny? Nebraska, 31 minutes a time of possession, but did that without putting drives together. Not sure how you do that. I mean, our 2 touchdown drives were explosive plays, and then get a couple of drives together, don't come away with points. Then you come away with 3. 31 minutes you possess the ball. And still, 31 minutes, if you run the ball in that game, 31 minutes of their defense on the field, that's going to wear them down. We kept giving them, break after break after break, letting them get off the field. Wisconsin's offense wasn't good. Not at all. Defense has bailed this offense out so many times. There was bound to be a game come where the defense needed it. Exactly. And that's why I'm not going too terribly hard on the defense here, because I think it's just frustrating that we finally had it. We finally had an offensive performance where we didn't turn the ball over 15 times. And that's the game that the defense can't show up. I would almost rather have just gotten blown out in another game. I'd rather got blown out tonight than lose like this. This is horrible. Absolutely hate running out of the shotgun. And we've been saying this all year. The Michigan game was a big one, where early in that game we're running out of shotgun on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and we can't get a push. If you can't get a push on the line, why are you running out of shotgun? It's not going to work. Because as soon as that running back gets to the line, they've already got that push. It's too risky. And I just say, get under center and just start driving your legs. Do what they did with Braylon Allen there when they just pushed him forward. I don't understand why, and then just running out of the shotgun in general. It hasn't worked all year either, and it's not fooling anybody. I like when we get big in big formations and we just pound the rock, pound Emmett Johnson, pound Anthony Grant. There's not enough creativity out of the shotgun right now for us to be able to mix it up and do shotgun, runs. Rule and Satter for a long time, buddies. Yeah, he won't. I agree. He's going to run Satterfield. He's going to be like Scott Frost was with Chinander, essentially. Scott Frost refused to get rid of Chinander until basically everybody's calling for Frost's head, and Frost is like, my head's not going, he's going. And then eventually he started firing all his assistants when his ass was on the line. But I think Rule's definitely going to let this play out a few years. Yeah. How many times Wisconsin run a shotgun a short yardage and get a first down? That's the thing. They, Braylon Allen's stats weren't crazy tonight, right? but the dude got the yards when he needed to. And it seemed for us, we couldn't consistently get yards no matter what, just because the pass game was non-existent. The fact that Mordecai was running the ball so well um, opened everything up for them. Just because his ability to scramble made it so much more difficult on our defense, because now you have to account for him. And not only that, he's kind of picking the defense apart. Mordecai's good, man. Mordecai was one of the top transfer portal quarterbacks and might be the second best quarterback behind JJ McCarthy in the Big Ten. So, you know, that's going to happen. But the fact that we had him bottled up and had them bottled up so many times was the frustrating part. He's going to beat you occasionally, but it was like the zone was so soft today. We showed man, went to zone, and it didn't drop the guy back far enough. It's just like we're getting cute on defense too. I don't think we ran enough stunts today. I feel like if we ran more, blitzes and stuff like that, delay blitzes, because when we were sending 4 and 5, he had all day. He had all day to throw. Chuba played very well. Great future head at hold Satterfield at fault here. It's just in what year issued fits personnel wise for the offense. No turn. So I can see that. I can see that. That's kind of what I was pointing to earlier, where it's like, is it because there's been so much churn, on the offensive side of the ball with injuries and stuff like that? But I think the issue that I have is that you see something working and then you go away from it. I feel like it would be different if this offense couldn't find a rhythm on the ground or throwing, right? Then we can be like, well, it's tough because everybody's injured. We got 3 quarterbacks rotating, turning the ball over like crazy. Well, turning the ball over like crazy is on the coaching too. But I can see that in that instance. But when you see it working for the first 2 drives and then they blatantly go away from it, that to me deserves the criticism. So I won't hold them completely at fault for this loss, right? Special teams didn't play well. Penalties, pre-snap penalties. Still coaching, right? So not helping Satterfield out much here. Tackling. And so you can't just point the finger to him. Like last week, it was the big issue with Satterfield. So maybe some of that carried over to this week. But I just think we've seen this so many times where something has worked offensively and he has just completely abandoned it and just continues to want to pass. I don't think we should have passed one time today. No, I'm just kidding. How many first-year coaches have we lost to this year? I don't know. That's an interesting stat I'll have to look up. Rule Satterfield coach staff will never turn Nebraska around. What? I understand that. Rule Satterfield coach. Oh, rules on Satterfield's coaching staff. Okay. I mean, appreciate the comment, Bruce. I get what you're saying. I had a stroke reading it. I'm just playing. Yeah, man. So let's let me dive a little bit more into the numbers here. Let's go to penalties, because penalties another big issue. Okay. How many penalties did we end up with? It'd be helpful if I knew where to look here. But oh yeah, here we go. 7 for 54 yards. Wow. The thing is, 7 for 54 yards, and they had 4 for 45, right? So yardage similar. Is it just me, or do we just get them at the absolute worst times? It's like the timing is egregiously bad. I'm going to go into the overtime next, because they also missed a really obvious tripping there on Braylon Allen. If they call that, they're not getting 7 there. And it was clear as day tripping and doesn't get called. That to me is frustrating, right? And people say, when you point to a call as a reason that you lost, right? They think you're exonerating the team of all the issues that they had, but you're not. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, right? We can agree that the play on the field was bad, but also agree that hurt us in a bad way, right? Because 3 versus 7 there, we're in a much better situation. Our offense isn't throwing deep on 3rd and 4th down. No, Bruce, I'm just playing with you, man. I was making a joke. I'm just messing with you. I am the worst with wording things. So I'm just giving you crap. I'm a jokester. if you want to call me that. I'm funny half the time, so I'll take it. But yeah, that tripping missed, and then that leads to 7. Also, that scramble by Mordecai, I mean, that was probably the most frustrating. That was I at that point I was like, we're losing this game. Braylon Allen, then you let him get it on 4th and 1, just absolutely gut wrenching, and then 3rd and 16, I don't know why we're throwing to the 3-yard line there. I get Malachi, like Malachi was covered, but he tried to throw it high, tried to high point it, and Malachi go get up and get it, but he overthrew it. And then you're in 4th and 16, right? Like I understand that throw is there to make, right? But that's not the throw you want to take on 3rd and 16. If you can't find something underneath, then try to get some yards, try to get forward. But I think there has to be a check down there. And I think we definitely should use a check down at maybe 5 yards, sit him at 5, or just do a quick 6 yards and make that a 4th and, make that a 4th and 10. I mean, 4th and 10 is way better than 4th and 16. And then the penalty on that drive, of course. Oh man, it's just the things happen in the most inopportune times. And it feels like the same story every week. And it's like a snowball effect of frustration. Well, every week, it's been years. Is there a chance to play so poorly because we put our eggs in the beat Iowa basket? Osborne demoted. So I'm sure that we owe you. Man, I really hope we're not putting our eggs in the beat Iowa basket, because I don't know how confident I am in that beat Iowa basket. I think that beat Iowa basket might be a little damaged, and our eggs might be falling out of it, because playing like this, I mean, like I said earlier, we have to sustain drives against Iowa. They're just going to wear us down. They make plays to win, and we clearly cannot. So, yeah, man, Bruce, I feel you, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired in general, but I'm tired of losing. Defense did okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, think about it. They had 17 points given up total. So the defense didn't play bad. I think it's just the moments that we had the opportunities to get them behind the line. Didn't take advantage of those, and that's the frustrating part. And visually, optics wise, it looks terrible. And we can admit the tackling was terrible, but the defense still played good. It's not to the level of mediocrity that the offense plays when the offense plays bad. I'd still say the defense did good. So that's a very good point, Van. Yeah. So let's go back into this 3rd down, right? 5 for 12. Majority of the time, I would love to see what yardage the majority of the time we were in, because I do feel like a lot of those were 3rd and longs. 4th down efficiency, 1 for 3 for both teams. Total yards outgained them 364 to 316. But again, timing of the issues. I want to also see if I can find Bushini's punting stats here. Let me go check that, because I'm really interested to see his average. So Bushini had 5 punts, 176 yards. He had a long of 49 that might have saved him. He had one inside the 20, but I think it was right on the 20, and had a chance to pin them deep on that one, because I believe that was from our 40-yard line. 35.2 average. So propped up by that 49. Otherwise, that punt average is probably more around the 30, 29 range. Absolutely abysmal. You can't do that. I mean, it's a tie game. That lost us the game. Another special teams gaffe when we sent the house to block the punt, and he pulls his hands in instead of just like, he doesn't want to rough the punter, but he pulls his hands back like this instead of extending his arms. And like the broadcast says, if he extends his arms there, he's blocking that. The ball's probably going that direction with an opportunity to pick it up and score, or at the very least, we're right there on their side of the field with a minute and some change to go. We may have had way more time than that. I don't remember how much time we had. Probably had a lot more. But regardless, you're there knocking on the door of 7, already in field goal range, most likely. If not, regardless, you're getting that momentum, which is huge, right? That right there, I mean, there were so many things we can point at that were just mistakes that you can say, this lost us the game. This lost us the game. So I don't understand the mentality there of why in that situation he pulls up, because he, as a player, should be able to go after that, right, without roughing the punter. And he had a lane. He had a lane to dive sideways. It wasn't like he was just running straight at him. And like I said, all he had to do was this. All you have to do is that, and you block the punt. And so little things like that. It's the plays we don't make, right? It's they're there to be made sometimes. They are absolutely there to be made sometimes, and we don't get it, So there was a couple opportunities where Satterfield called the right play and we just didn't execute, multiple instances of that too. So again, there was some issues with the offense just not being able to take advantage of those good play calls when they happen, and that makes us focus more on the negative or the bad play calls, because you don't really see a lot of those missed plays, because there'll be incompletion or run out of bounds. They don't really show that, but a lot of missed opportunities out there. We did come pretty close. You'll have to admit, lots of people like Coach Rule. I like Rule. I love Rule a lot. I have not changed my opinion on Rule at all. I don't think Satterfield should be fired. I don't. I think we should continue and just give him an opportunity to get a system implemented, maybe get some players in there and a competent quarterback and get healthy. But I do think that next year there needs to be a fire under his butt, and they need to pressure him. He needs to feel that pressure, because he's got to come out next year. Our schedule is brutal next year. So if we want to make a bowl game next year, he's going to have to figure it out, and he's going to have to figure it out quick. So because some of those offense we're going to be playing late in the season, your USC's, your UCLA's, your Ohio State, those offenses are going to be cooking. And yeah, Satterfield right now, I don't trust the play calling enough, and I don't know against Iowa how we're going to score points. I would imagine Chuba gets the start again. Chuba looked great out there. I would imagine he gets the start again, and I'm excited about Chuba. He gives us a little confidence, maybe, in our quarterback room depth, at least going into next year, knowing that we at least have a competent quarterback on the roster. But of course, we need to tackle the transfer portal. This is the worst QB room we've had in a while. But Iowa's going to be tough to even without Cooper DeJean today. I mean, it hurt them in the punt return game, but their defense didn't miss a beat, and they're banged up offensively too. They're dealing with a lot of injuries as well. But for some reason, and it's frustrating, Iowa always finds a way to win. I don't understand. I don't get it. And we can't. I don't know how we go over to Iowa and just steal kind of their get them on stars and just steal their kind of their glory over there. But yep, very, very frustrating. Like I said, I am probably the most frustrated I've been in a while. And when does it end? When does it end? All right. I'm curious everybody's take on Iowa, the game next week. Do you feel this offense will kind of finally find a rhythm under Chuba, or do y'all think it'll be a lot of the same? And yeah, what's your predictions against Iowa? I'm really curious, because this game might end in a 6-3 final, but I don't know how we score against them. Chuba Purdy, final stats: 15 for 23, 169 yards, 7.3 average. Of course, he had the long one. One interception was at the end. Tanner Mordecai, 18 for 28, 160, 5.7 average. So he was dinking and dunking, right? He was just finding soft spots in the zones. And I don't know why we offensively have such a hard time doing that and finding little soft spot in the zone and coming up with just something to get guys open. Last week, there was opportunities there. Jeff Sims, on a deep crosser, missed the guy wide open, threw it into triple coverage, throws the interception there. Those are those opportunities that are there, right? Do we find those opportunities with Chuba next week? A little bit of game film. There probably can be some improvements made over this week. But there's also game film defensively for Iowa. So that Iowa Frost. Iowa's defense is going to maul. Yeah, I have a big fear that this is probably pretty accurate. I'm not going to lie to you. I bet Iowa hires Frost as their OC. I mean, for what it's worth, Frost was a good OC, but also was under a very good offensive mind. So I just keep telling myself it's rules first year and the QB of the future isn't on the team. That's all we got to remind ourselves, right? I get we don't want to keep saying that. It's rules first year. It's rules first year. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? And again, we can say the same thing every week, looking back at this team being number 133 ranked in turnovers per game. That is dead last in the NCAA. 133. I didn't even know there were 133. I thought there was like 127. And so, yeah, the number 133 in turnovers per game, which is coaching. However, look at the depth chart at the beginning of the season. If you would have told us at the beginning of the season, again, I say this every week, if you would have told us at the beginning of the season we had these injuries and led the nation in turnovers, I wouldn't have thought we would be sitting here with a week left having bowl eligibility on the line. The reason it's frustrating, again, is because we could have won each and every game of the last 3 weeks and be sitting pretty right here with a Big Ten West championship knocking on our door. You know, why is Buschini still allowed to punt? Yeah, I don't know, but we need NIL. We can start it here. I'm going to start it like a petition, and we're going to start a fundraiser, and we're going to go nab us a punter out of the transfer portal. I don't know if punters go in the transfer portal, but we need to give them enough money to pull one in and then bring him over. But for some reason, I feel like this is just a theory of mine, but it seems to be the case, right? A punter will come out and have a great season. A field goal kicker will come out and have a great season. This is in recent years. And then it's like they lose their abilities in the offseason and come back the next year and they're horrible. You know, we have all Big Ten kickers that come back the next year and are replaced. One point we had soccer tryouts for the kicker position under Frost. But I feel like, you know, Buschini, great. He had a great year and was a solid punter. And this year, especially down the stretch, when we need him the most, he's lost it. I don't know what it is, but that 18-yard punt was atrocious. And then that punt from the 40 where he just gets it to the 20, like I get inside the 20, but you're not helping anything there. Like that doesn't flip the field. It doesn't flip the field at all. It doesn't help. And that's not going to be pointed to enough. I don't think the special teams play in coaching is going to be pointed to enough. And I feel like it needs to be. Hopefully they don't focus just on the offense, because the special teams lost us this game too, just as much as the offense did, because they directly led to points being scored. And I don't think they get that second touchdown if we can punt the ball more than 18 yards, you know. Also, they don't score that touchdown that to make it a 17-point game if we get a sack. So again, offense, special teams. You can point to special teams too. Nobody's off the hook. So just as much as Satterfield deserves to be criticized, I think special teams they deserve to be criticized as well. They need to be under the same heat. Everybody, listen, the conversation next week, if we lose to Iowa and don't make a bowl game, is going to be very interesting. And the conversations this offseason are going to be very interesting. There's going to be a lot of talk about firing. Again, I think it's fallen on deaf ears. But this offseason will be brutal for all of us if we lose this next week to Iowa. I'm hoping maybe Iowa has kind of like, yeah, we got the Big Ten West basically in the bag. You know, they have a lackadaisical performance and we can go in there and win bowl eligibility. We always play Iowa close, but in most years, I feel like we have an offense, right? And that's what you need against Iowa. You need an offense because they can't move the ball on bad defenses. Chuba added a whole new dimension with the intermediate pass game. So he needs to cut out the reliance on the 0-yard pass, went afraid for the run. Yeah, exactly. Like I mentioned before, first 2 drives, you're running, you know, you're getting the ball vertical, you're moving the ball past the line of scrimmage, and it's leading to situations, there's different situations for 3rd and 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 15, but 3rd and 6 and less, or 3rd and 5 and less, that play calling opens way up in the playbook. Whereas you have a guy in Chuba making his first start on the road in Wisconsin, and you're putting him in obvious pass situations again when the receivers cannot get separation. It makes no sense, because you have to put him in a position to be successful. He's not experienced enough to be able to just come in and make plays like that, right? Like Mordecai. Mordecai's experience, right? Chuba may have that ability to make plays like Mordecai, but he doesn't have the experience. And Satterfield needs to understand that, right? And needs to put him in the most successful position, and getting him behind the line of scrimmage and throwing the ball around the behind the line of scrimmage ain't it. Again, those 2 plays in a row where we throw it out, quick pass out left, and then we run this little cutesy little try to attempted reverse thing behind the line of scrimmage, and we get tackled, and all of a sudden it's 3rd and long again. I can't tell you how many 3rd and longs we were in tonight. And, Chuba, to his credit, converted a 1st and 19, I believe it was, and a 1st and 20, 2nd and 19, 1st and 19, something like that, and a 1st and 20. I agree. He was there all night. I don't give this to him. Like, I don't credit him at all with this loss in any extent. He was running when he needed to run. He was throwing it away when he needed to throw it away. Not enough people are going to point to the throwaways and be like, that's huge for us, because it is. I mean, again, Jeff Sims, Harburgs would have tried to throw a crossbody across the field to force something in there in a tight window, and it would have got intercepted. So even the plays that were incompletions, were big, because they're not interceptions or fumbles. And he protected the ball. That's the biggest thing. That's why he has to start next week. If Rule's going with the Anthony Grant thing that he did earlier in the season, where Grant had ball security issues, so he benched him, then he needs to be consistent with that. And Chuba has shown in a game that he can protect the ball better than any quarterback on this roster. He better start next week, and he should be the favorite of the 3 to be the starter next year. Of these 3, though, not as if we'll get a transfer portal QB. If they lose to Iowa, I wonder which and how many players leave via the portal. The one thing about the offense that scares me, right, is, with the transfer portal, a lot of these guys want to go to the league. Of course, all of them probably want to go to the league, but nobody's going to want to transfer here to come play wide receiver on this offense, because they're not going to get numbers. Like, you look at Fedoni. Like, I was thinking about this when I was looking at Fedoni's numbers. He's 20 catches for like 284 yards. But thinking about that, if we had a good offense, he could be somewhere probably in the 600-700 yard range with maybe 6 to 8 TDs. He's that good. So when receivers are looking to transfer, they're not going to want to transfer to an anemic offense that everybody's just clamoring, run the ball, run the ball. And so that's this. I feel like they have to showcase a little something against Iowa, man. Something offensively, just to get some into the offseason, some kind of juice in his offense, something to leave a little bit of a good taste in our mouth. And hopefully win that game, get to a bowl game, have a good bowl game, because, for all the frustration that we're feeling right now, you beat Iowa, you win the bowl game, we're feeling pretty good, right? Feeling pretty good going in the offseason. And we got a little momentum for the transfer portal. So these just become so much bigger. And the fact that we had opportunities against Michigan State, Maryland, Northwestern, Wisconsin to get bowl eligible, and we just made it as difficult on ourselves as possible. It was easier game, a little bit more difficult, and then a lot more difficult. And we put ourselves in that position. So let's see what they're made of. I bet you Rule and Satterfield come out win next week in a pretty good performance. We might be able to hug it out a little bit. So everything we need to know about the staff when they select their play call, we can't execute well as the first play in OT. Yeah, The play calling in OT was terrible. That was atrocious. And Wisconsin had no fear in that. Like there was no potential that those plays were going to be anything. So we made it so easy on Wisconsin out there with those 4 plays that we ran. I mean, you think there you have to just do what you did in the first couple drives. You have to go back to that and just stick with the plays that you run the most. Kind of like you said, we can't execute it. You have to go with the plays that are the least risky, that work the best in practice. And he said that time and time again that, when he brought Anthony Grant in and Anthony Grant fumbled earlier in the season, he was like, well, Grant, and they asked why he brought Grant in when he was having ball security issues. He said Grant was running that play the best in practice. So using that logic, how were we going to pull out plays that we're probably not doing well with in practice, doing not well with games? And why are we not using that same formula for the successful plays? Because our offense is playing against a solid defense in practice, so stick with the plays that work. It's the cuteness. It's the cuteness and just trying to do too much. Players love rule he's building. Yeah. Hopefully we can get Sims off the roster. I don't know what Sims' NIL is, but I hope that doesn't hinder us at all. Sims, like we gotta have a contract dispute or something. There's got to be a clause in there or something that we can terminate this if he has 17 turnovers. They better wrote something in there, because if he holds us back from getting a QB because he wants to stay on the roster, that's a bad day. Can Nebraska just please take a swing pass page out of the playbook and burn it? Hey, I'm saying that was – I still remember I think it was Illinois. I remember it was 2021. Scott Frost's first play of the game, after we were criticizing him nonstop for throwing those little bubble screens behind the line of scrimmage because they always turn into a fumble. Came out the first play, Illinois ran it, and we fumbled. I just said Illinois, so sorry. Illinois, he ran that play and we fumbled. That's what this reminds me of. It's exactly what this reminds me of. And that's the same thought I had whenever, I was yelling at my TV. Why are we behind the sticks? Why are we playing behind the line of scrimmage when we can't move the ball forward? Why are we going to sit ourselves in back here? Hey, we can't move the ball forward when we're running straight. So we're just going to dance around back here, let the defense just be able to just kind of come up and, blow all the blocking up. You can't block on the outside. You can't block on the outside. You can't run the plays to the outside. It's that clear. I do. I absolutely think we can beat Iowa. Iowa's offense, again, is atrocious, right? The difference between us and Iowa, and our offense skill-wise, I think, is better, right? I do think we have a more athletic offense. I do think we have more potential in our offense. But we don't make the winning plays. Iowa doesn't beat themselves. Iowa stays within the structure. Iowa knows what works for them, and they use it. Whether they're down or whether they're up, Iowa's doing the same game plan, and they're trusting that they're going to make the plays at the end of the game to win. We're scrambling at the end. We don't know what to do. We are just running plays and hoping for the best and not executing well. And against Iowa, that's going to be to our detriment. I still think that we will come out. I'm going to a little bit biased say that we'll beat Iowa. I'm trying to speak it into existence, guys. But if we do, it's going to be a very close game. And I'm talking somewhere in the realm of 16-13. But there is the potential that Iowa could come out and, our offense hasn't been able to keep our defense off the field. Iowa's going to destroy us if that happens, because their formula is run the ball, wear you down. It's Big Ten football. Run the ball, wear you down, don't make mistakes, keep everything within themselves, right? They don't get cute. They might sometimes, but they don't try to get cute and they don't make mistakes. And so they're going to do that, and they are going to feast if our defense is on the field nonstop. So our offense needs to have the ability to sustain some drives, that's going to start with the play calling. So whatever game plan they come out with this week, it better be to run the clock and come out and control the clock, keep the defense off the field. And so that way we have a fresh defense late in the game, because late in the games where Iowa usually takes the lead, takes over, they get the luckiest team in college football right now, I feel like. But yeah, that's the two ways it's going to go. So the offensive game plan is going to be very, very it's going to be everything. And right now I don't trust Satterfield with his offensive game plans. So I absolutely think we can beat Iowa. I have not determined yet if I'm going to say we will. I try to speak it into existence, but let me think on it a little more. Right now, still a little emotional, but we 100% can beat Iowa, of course. We can beat Iowa because that offense is terrible. Might be worse than ours. Done too much to this team and all their injuries. Hard not to admire reality versus fandom. Yeah, no, absolutely. And Iowa's decimated with injuries too. I agree with you though. I think those two things, are not mutually exclusive. I know we're looking at things in a very emotional vacuum right now because this opportunity was right in front of us, and this opportunity is right there, and we're knocking on his door week after week after week, and we keep getting the same stuff that we always had, the same self-inflicted mistakes and one-score losses. That's what makes it emotional, and that's what makes it frustrating. That's what makes us sit here and talk about it. But overall, what Rule has done in the situation he's in has been great, right? It's amazing. Again, number 133 last in college football in turnovers, and all these injuries and the churn, and we're still knocking on the door of a bowl game. Again, Rule deserves a ton of credit. So yeah, good call out, Chaco. And he has developed players. I can tell you one, Jalen Petrie. I'm a Texans fan. Jalen Petrie's on the Texans. Unbelievable. Came out his rookie season, was insane. He wasn't a highly touted guy. He wasn't even Rule's recruit, but Rule took over at Baylor and developed him into an NFL talent. Rule can develop players. I have no doubt Rule's going to get this right. Just this year, it's very, very frustrating. And I think we can say both of those things. I don't think it's wrong to say, hey, I know. And I think some people conflate the two and think that if we say, if we're frustrated right now, we're calling them out for play calls and play on the field, we can still do that and also agree in the macroscopic view of things that we still feel like we're in a good position. But, we can worry about that big overview this offseason. Right now, these things are important, right? Because they help recruiting, and a bowl game helps recruiting, and being able to put on a performance, in a bowl game that a lot of people are going to be watching is important for our offseason to be able to go get, players that want to come play for this team. They need to put on a good performance and be able to show and spotlight it like that. So it does matter, but yeah, so I agree with you. And it's just both, both are kind of true right now. So I totally agree with you. Frustration is real. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's difficult right now. And again, I hate being a guy who mentions fire year one for anybody. I cannot stand that. And so that's why I'm saying Satterfield shouldn't be fired this year. I think he deserves at least 3 years. If we're saying Rules 2 to 3 years, I feel like we have to give Satterfield that same 2 to 3 years. I think it's only fair, because if Rule would have come out and performed badly this year, I think still people would have been, if we were a 3-win team, people would not be calling for Rule's head. So I think the same thing should apply to Satterfield. Just because it's the OC, doesn't make it any less egregious. But I do understand, because again, earlier I was frustrated to the point where I was about to say, his ass is grass. But again, it needs to light a fire in his ass's offseason. Rule needs to let him know that 2 years, 2 or 3 years isn't a long time to turn around, especially when year one you can't find any offensive rhythm. We're going to be getting new players, probably a new quarterback in the transfer portal. So it's going to be a fresh start year two. So, things time goes quickly in these things. But what's up, Sonny? How many Big Ten West teams are satisfied with their coaching share? Northwestern and Iowa. That's it. Absolutely. Northwestern. Who would have thought they'd be bowl eligible for us, huh? Yeah. I'm pretty. Yeah. Wisconsin fans mad at Fickle. Yeah. Everybody's mad. I'm sure y'all mad at Bielema. Big Ten officials, like I said, they hate Bielema though. I don't know what it is, but there were some bad calls early in that game. 6-3 Iowa wins Friday, dude. That's the same score I predicted. If it's 6-3, man, I need to come shake your hand. The offense has more underclassmen than turnovers. Rule and Sat are fine. Yeah. More underclassmen than turnovers. I think, and we've rotated through 3 quarterbacks, and 2 of them can't throw the ball. So a lot of emotion right now. I know. So even with me, I'm going to take a step back after this and probably going to be like, think of it rationally. When I come on the show Thursday, I'll be a little bit more rational about it. Trying not to get too emotional when I'm talking about Satterfield right now, because again, I hate when we just kind of hone in on one part of this because, like I said earlier, I don't know if the special teams is going to get enough pointed out enough. Hopefully they will, but I don't want the offense to become the entire focus and they're just getting the tough questions and Satterfield's just getting the blame because then all the focus goes to him and it doesn't go to the special teams that were also terrible and lost us the game tonight. So, all right, guys. Just quickly here for those who are new and have not watched the show before. My name is Justin Adams. I am the post-game host here at the Voice of College Football. I'm a content creator here, and I also go on the Thursday live streams where we break down the upcoming games. You can find me on Cheesy Corn Sports on YouTube 2 hours before the games on Sunday. That is Cheesy Corn Sports. I got it somewhere here. There we go. Cheesy Corn Sports. My co-host is a cheesehead, and I am a corn head. So it sounded kind of weird. So yeah, 2 hours before the game on Sundays. If y'all want to join us, we talk football. We talk it's fantasy football. We take calls and stuff like that. On Fridays, we just kind of talk big stories in the NFL. So join me there if you'd like. But yeah, again, just a lot to dislike today. It seems like the same story every episode. But Iowa next week, still an opportunity for bowl eligibility on the line. We got to reset. And we win that game, like I said, we might be singing a different tune. You string that win, that leads you into the bowl game. You come away this season with 7 wins, you're feeling good. And also, you're feeling good going to the offseason, looking at the transfer portal with hopefully somewhat of a momentous offensive push into the offseason. The offense is more underclassmen turnovers. Oh, sorry. I put that one up. Almost accidentally put you in a timeout. My bad. Was the deal with the kid not going for the pump block? Was it close? Yeah, I talked about that earlier. He had that. All he has to do is extend his arms. He doesn't even have to lay out for that. He played scared. And what I said earlier is when you're on an all-out block for a punt, you can't play scared. If you're on that side and it's an all-out block, it's called an all-out block for a reason. Sell out. Okay. He had an angle to where he was not going to run into that punter. And again, he didn't need to lay out for it. So why you pull your hands back when you're not like people do that when they get a penalty. They're like, oh, crap. This dude had to do this. He could have just left his hands where they were probably and blocked it. That's how, that's how in front of him he was. But it's a scared play. And you can't have guys like that on those on special teams. And again, that's another factor of the special teams, not only the punting issue and the field goal, but that block right there. Those guys, that was playing scared, plain and simple. And we can't keep playing scared when we can't win these close games. We have to sell out. And that right there was our opportunity to put our offense in a position to win that game, because you block that, you might have 7 the other way. Or at the very least, you're on that side of the field, the plus side of the field, with time, as opposed to having time at the end of the game and completely mismanaging the clock. So really screwed ourselves there. That play could have won us the game. So, and that's why I say, like, I hope Satterfield doesn't get all of the blame for this, because special teams really needs to be a focal point of this. The blame needs to be pointed around again. Not too much in the defense, but the tackling does need to improve. But it's one game. The defense has played astounding this year. I find it hard to fault them for anything. So, all right, guys. I appreciate everybody hopping on with me. I appreciate the comments. Chaco, J. Lou, Sonny, Bone Leg Cornfed, Kyle, Mr. Mark, Drizzle Stick, the usual people and some new ones. So I appreciate everybody hopping in here with me, man. Y'all make it a little bit easier to deal with these losses. I appreciate that, Chaco. I enjoy hanging out with y'all. So we'll be here next week as well. I got Chancellor. I'm planning maybe a recording next week with Chancellor Brewington. So be on the lookout for that if we end up recording. If not, hopefully for the bowl game we will be. So stay on the lookout for that, and join us on Thursday. Thursday, I believe I'm in Mountain Standard Time, so we don't have time change. So when the time changes, I get all confused. So, but it is at, I believe, 5 Eastern. I can't believe I forgot. Dude, I have ADHD, so I just blame it on that. But y'all see the show link here, and y'all see it scheduled on the channel. So, and I'll also post it to the community. I'm posting polls and stuff there too. So y'all see more of that coming. But again, thank you to everybody who joins me here every week, and thank you to the new people that joined in. Hopefully I'll see y'all next week. And yeah, let's hopefully look forward to bowl eligibility next year. Let's take a step back, take a breather. If you got an NFL team, hopefully they can, make the weekend a little easier or worse on you. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and I will see y'all Thursday. So, all right, peace.